Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional owners and custodians of the land in which we live today. I would like to also pay respect to the elders, both past, present, and extend the respect to other Indigenous Australians who are present. On behalf of the RACP, I would like to welcome you to this evening's exam and wellbeing event, an initiative of the New South Wales ACT Trainees Committee. My name is Kiri Langford and I'm the co-chair of that committee. So I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. Firstly, I'd like to thank our speakers who've given up their precious time this evening and sharing their valuable insights with us. And secondly, I'd like to thank Dr. Zanelia Chowdhury and Paul Kumar, who have organised this event but couldn't be here just now, but Amelia will join us later. I would now like to welcome Dr. Louise Ward to provide an overview of how to manage your health and wellbeing during the exams. Louise is a rheumatology advanced training at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital. She helps to design and implement and continues to be involved in a BPTOK, which is a wellbeing program for the physician trainees. Earlier this year, she enjoyed the role of medical education registrar at RPA, where she was involved in the BPT training program, running the local RACP examination and exploring new initiatives for junior training. Outside of that, she was trail running, the beach, and running around with a 2-year-old daughter. I'm George. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. I'd just like to say that it's a great privilege and honour for me to be here this evening in what I know is such an important time in your lives. And I just want to say all the best and well done for being here and for this journey that you're on. And I'm keen to know what sort of, where everyone's up to. So perhaps could you put up your hands if you're going to sit the written exam next year? Okay, and the following year? You want a couple of people. Okay, awesome, great, okay, that's very good. Okay, so tonight I'm just going to talk a bit about what Kiri's introduced me, thank you very much, but why I've been asked to come to talk to you tonight about managing stress in exams, and it's certainly not because I was an expert when I was a BPT, and then a bit about why BPTOK, and I'm not having tonight as a bit of a BPTOK showcase, but I think that there's some lessons that I've learned and I think that can be learned for BPTs, and then just to talk about what parts of BPTOK have been successful, and then how you could make your own sort of program or shape things in your own life moving forward, particularly for the next 18 months, but also for the rest of your careers and how you can help manage your stress. And then I just want to do a couple of practical things. So this is me and my son George, and I was a BPT in 2015 and 16, and I was actually pregnant for both of my exams. And towards the end of my BPT, I went on maternity leave and then commenced a project in BPTOK research, or a research project looking into the health and wellbeing of the basic physician trainees. I certainly found it unexpectedly quite challenging to manage some of the stress that was associated with the BPT training. And I could remember back to being a med student and getting this checklist for burnout. And at the time, I'm like, oh my God, that would never apply to me. That wouldn't even come into my training. But then I found quite a lot of areas of BPT challenging, and I thought I was the only one. I didn't think anyone else, looking around you, everyone's so capable, and I thought everyone else had it completely together and that I must be the only one feeling this way, which is not the case. So tonight I'm just keen to share with you a bit of some things that I've learned along the journey. I've got a few slides on some facts and figures about why we started BPTOK, but I'm quite sure that probably everyone in this room realises why something needs to be done. So of course you probably know about a lot of big studies that have shown quite high rates of burnout and stress and depression and anxiety in junior doctors. But I don't want to harp on about that because I think we're all aware. And then there's just a couple of slides on the impact of that. Sorry, that's off the top, but so it can impact on us all as doctors if we're feeling quite stressed or burnout in this case. And I mean, it's not surprising to see there's evidence about it reducing empathy and compassion, for example. There can be a big impact on the organisation, again, because of the impact that it has on individual doctors. And of course, that can flow onto patient care, and there is some data showing impact on errors and complaints and patient satisfaction. That's not the focus of the talk because I don't really want to make it a didactic session. And I wanted to talk a bit more about how we came up with BPTOK and what happened and what could be next. So the big group of many of us who were interested came together, so past and current BPTs, of which I was one, and some recent trainees or training directors, psychiatrists, psychology, to come up with sort of a curriculum and then to work out how to put that into play. So we're really keen for BPTOK to start a conversation about junior doctor wellbeing. And we were keen to make it a preventative approach so that this was applicable to everyone going into BPT because there, as I'm sure you're well aware, and I don't need to tell you, but the job pressures of the long hours and then study and trying to see your friends, they are real, and it is, you're not abnormal if you feel the stress of that. One of the great things I think that BPTOK has developed is that, or has shown that these skills that help looking after your own self and stress really can be useful in helping look after your patients, and particularly for the clinical exam it can be useful, but more importantly for day-to-day practice with patients. And BPTOK, we really wanted to create a healthy workplace. And one of the key things we wanted to get across, which is still a difficult concept to understand, is that we want to value the skills required for maintaining our psychological and physical wellbeing as much as other life-saving skills like CPR, which we have, full weekend courses on and get assessed on. It's required by the college. And our BPTOK has a couple of arms. So we have both psychological and physical components. So the physical components, we have a personal trainer for our group of BPTs once a week and a yoga instructor once a week. And then we've had some psychological components, including a mentorship program and many workshops, and we'll talk about some of those, and some mindfulness-based stress relaxation course. Yeah. There's been some really good, people have found that this targeted thinking about and planning for their own self-care and wellbeing can have really good impact on stress and the work-life balance. And one of the great things about BPTOK has meant that it's sort of driven organisational change in helping get extra covers for ADOs and protecting lunch breaks and many other wellbeing activities. So then that's all, might be a bit hard to apply to you. But then I was thinking about, so people here, if you're not in a hospital where there's a structured approach to what you can do for your wellbeing, I think one of the biggest things that we've learned from BPTOK is looking out for your peers. So I think that's one of the biggest things we can all do is ask each other how you're going and looking out for people. If you see that there's any signs of burnout or loss of empathy or not as engaged as they work or feeling that they're maybe not caring as much as they used to or they're snapping, other things like that, to really think about taking that next step and asking if they're okay. And then one of the challenging things can be what to do for someone if they're not okay and if they've confided in you. And this happened to me, not just where I'm working, but friends across many districts who weren't okay during BPT, and just the struggle of trying to help a friend who maybe say, no, I don't want to see a GP, and trying to navigate what to do from there. And so I think the director of training can often be a good first port of call, and they're keen to know that all networks, I think, have employee assistance programs. I think GP and the Doctors' Health Advisory Service and psychologists are a good place to start. But then there could be things like more practical things that you could start at your network, like having a regular debriefing session, which is something we found really useful at RPA. Like, for example, once a fortnight, just everyone meeting up for coffee 20 minutes before the start of work for a bit of a debrief, have a quick chat, and you can check in with people. And just gives, sometimes just being able to have a quick chat about something really stressful that happened on that evening shift last night, or just might not be coping that well with interaction in the workplace. I think these little check-ins with people, I think, could be really useful. So if you were interested, you could be the person in your cohort at your network to suggest, why don't once a fortnight we have coffee, maybe there'll be funds from the RMOA Association or something like that. You could be that person. And similarly, you could suggest a group exercise thing, such as even just a short walk together or run together before work. And I know some of this seems impractical, but one of the best things that we've learnt from some of these things we've been doing in RPA is you don't always need a lot of time for these things. One of our personal trainers has a session that's about 6 minutes long and can be really useful. And one of our trainees, who's now finished his exams, he found it extremely useful to do. He's downloaded an app, which I've got at the end, which is, there's a few apps like this, that one called 7, and it's 7 minutes of exercise. And he found it really helpful each morning to do a 7-minute exercise routine using an app on his phone. It might not sound like much, but I think, one, it's better than doing nothing, which sometimes you find it really difficult to fit exercise in. You can't get to the gym or go out for a swim or a run, but just 7 minutes before you get dressed in the morning for work have a really big impact on mental health and physical health. And this is just something I found on the internet, but I quite liked it. And it's about self-care, and it's not just about salt baths and chocolate cake, but it's about making choices to build a life that you don't need to regularly escape. And I think that's a really important thing, that when we're so busy, we really need to structure it in, like literally put it in your diary. And if that means like putting it in the diary to have coffee with a friend and it's a guilt-free break, to do that, or even if it's one walk a week, if it's currently 0, to put it in the diary. But I wanted to get onto a few practical things, and these are a few things I've learnt from my time this year. And I know some people have skirts on, so they might not like to do it, but I just wanted to demonstrate, and please feel free to get involved. But the astronaut pose, if anyone's keen to join me, so that we lie down on the floor and put our feet up on the, oh, now switching the microphone. Just put your feet up on the chair. Julie. And you can move the chairs around. Yeah, lie on the ground if you don't want to crash anyone. Feel free to close your eyes if you want to. And people who aren't on the floor, feel free to close your eyes. And then I want you to think of a square. And this is just an exercise to concentrate on your breathing. So you're thinking about a square, and you're thinking that you're starting in the bottom left corner of the square. And you're going to breathe your way around the square. So as we're going to go from the bottom left up to the top left corner. So you're going to imagine yourself going along that side, and you're breathing in, 1, 2, 3. So you're going, and then you're holding your breath as we move across the top of the square. And we're going down the other side, 1, 2, 3, and holding out, 1, 2, 3. And breathe in, moving up the left side of the square. Hold and out down the right side of the square. Breathe in, up the left side of the square.
Moving across the top, holding, and breathe out down the side of, right side of the square. And when you're ready, if you'd like to open your eyes, you can. Just take it in your own time. And when you're ready, you can sit back up on your chairs. Next, I want to do one little exercise, and I think you'll have received a handout. It's the back of your handouts. It's on goal setting. So this is one exercise that we have done, and it's talking about self-care, and it's making a self-care plan. And there's lots of parts of self-care, but some of the ones that I think are really obvious but hard to do are sleep, food, and exercise. And also sometimes personal relationships, if you feel like you're not catching up with your friends. So how am I going to time?
I'll tell you in 2 minutes.
So what I thought we might do is I might give everyone 1 or 2 minutes to have a think about some of these things. And like, for example, sleep. Who is getting enough sleep? Is everyone happy with the amount of sleep they're getting? And if the answer is no, then stop. You could stop at sleep and have a bit of a think about, why aren't you getting enough sleep? What's stopping you from sleeping enough? Like, I know one big thing for me is spending 45 minutes on Instagram or something like that. So now I've charged my phone in the hallway next to my room, for example. But think about the things, what might be stopping you from sleep, or what might be stopping you from having a healthy diet that you like, or exercise that you like. Have a chat to your neighbour if you like, and talk to them about tips that you might have. But then I want you to think about it in the SMART goal approach. And this is something I use with patients in the clinic all the time. And I'm doing rheumatology, but I still don't talk about weight loss, smoking cessation, alcohol, exercise all the time. I'm getting them to think about these SMART goals, and it really works. But it also can work for you. So have a think about, for example, sleep, and try to come up with a goal for yourself and with something measurable and specific about how you could get better sleep in the next 2 weeks. I'll give you a couple of minutes. There's room over the other side of the page if you wanted to make any notes about how you think you could structure sleep into your life.
Yeah, just like straight and outside. That's all the thing for one house. Oh, okay. I'm actually meaning to doing that. Yeah. I thought that was part of it. I go to the gym because he sees me no, swimming I might just interrupt for the sake of time, but I hate to interrupt because I think this discussion can be really useful because you can get lots of ideas from each other.
And then it can help you realise that it is really important just to get the basics right. And I'm someone who's, been involved in BPTK for 18 months and still I really need to work on my physical exercise. Even though I said I like trail running, I still don't do it as often as I'd like. I think I'm getting sleep a bit better and nutrition a bit better, but it's so hard for everyone. It's really hard to get these basics right. But I think to know how important it is for you and to try to think about some specific things I think can be really useful. So these are just a couple of the apps. Some of these apps are I've given you a couple of tables of some resources I think could be useful for people who are well, for people who are not well, people wanting some more information. And some of the apps, there's lots of apps for meditation, and one I've used Calm, this app, which I find useful and can be ones for meditation and ones for getting into sleep, different things. And I actually haven't ever paid to sign up. I just use the free thing. But there's a couple that you can use on the free ones. And Smiling Mind is another good one for meditation. And then this is another good one that I learned about during, in BPTK, we had a couple of workshops where we just looked at that self-care thing, those goal setting, and we had groups of about 15, so a couple of 3 groups within our BPTK cohort. And we all had a big discussion about each of those, sleep, nutrition, activity, and all talked about our problems and suggestions. And I got lots of great ideas from that. And one of them is worry. So I don't know if you're a person, but I'm kind of this person. Say if you came home from an evening shift and then you're like worried about all your patients, or it might not even be just directly about patients, but you're worrying about all these things. Like I haven't written that presentation and I'm supposed to finish those questions. And like, how does it help you get to sleep at night? It does not. So then you can add a worry, and then you give yourself a worry time. So you write all your worries in there and you say, I'm going to next worry about this at 8 a.m. And then you write it on this paper and it scrunches the paper up, and it doesn't unscrunch until 8 a.m. So you're just not even allowed to worry about it. It doesn't even exist then because it's not going to help you anyway. So I thought that was quite a clever app that I've used a couple of times to stop me worrying. And this one is that 7 app. There's 7 minutes, just how to do a quick 7-minute workout. And there's so many more, there's so many great apps, and sometimes there's a bit of a balance with the apps, but then you don't spend too much time on your phone. But they can be useful. And some general tips I think I had. Sometimes I think that BPT study process can be really competitive, and you're in with lots of other high-achieving basic physician trainees, which sometimes can not make you feel very good. So I think it's a good idea to surround yourself with people who make you feel good. Not the people who might say they know all the answers to all the questions, which they don't, but it might feel like that. But just surround yourself with people who make you feel really good. And similarly for the next one, don't fall into the trap of comparing yourself with others, which is really hard. And I think keep some perspective on this is a really important exam, but it's an exam. One way I got perspective, which was not why I did it, but being pregnant gave me perspective, because I thought, I can't be so stressed that I'm going to jeopardise my future child. This is one exam I've got to still have my life. I've still got to do these things to look after myself. And then connect with purpose, which I think is a really important one. So that's thinking about why you wanted to become a doctor and what do you like day to day about becoming a doctor. And for me, that can be, I grew up in the country and I love it when people come in from the country, patients might come into the city and we have a chat about, their sheep property or little things about, their pets or something like that. And you just have this quick chat. It doesn't have to, I know it takes so long to admit a patient and everything like that, but you can just have a bit of banter about their pets, something like that. Love it. Just love it. Just to get that connection with people. And even though you're so busy, if you can just try to pick out what those things are that really made you want to become a doctor and make you really feel good about what you do, and try to think about just spending even sometimes 2 minutes a day or a couple of times a week on making sure that so you can remember and connect with your purpose in medicine. And that's all I have to talk about this evening, but I'm happy to take a couple of questions.
I ask a quick question about BPTK.
Yeah.
How did you manage that around
Is it much different for adults? So as peds trainees, we do shift work right until then.
Oh, yes.
So I'm just trying to think how you would schedule.
So we had all, or not all, but most of our BPTOK sessions are in protected teaching time. So all of the psychological sessions were in protected teaching time, and some of the exercise classes are in protected teaching time. But at the moment, the yoga is at 6 p.m, which is not. And the exercise has been sometimes in our protected teaching time, like if we might have 1 hour of clinical prep and 1 hour of exercise, or it's after that. So there's always some people who are on nights or maybe away from Sydney in that week after nights, or are carrying the on-call pager or working at shift, and they can't always come. So we try to get as many people as we can by having a lot of the sessions in protected time, but it's sort of goes in peaks of who can attend. We might not have night shift work, but we do have a night shift, that sort of thing. It's just like all the other teaching that they attend if they can. About that after.
Did I have a question about how is there any advice you have for managing the constant shift work, constant sending to multiple hospitals? Because your question, I think next door was very valid.
Yeah.
I think we do a lot more shift work and get sent all over the place, and are kind of expected to cope, I think, with a lot more sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially in these peripheral places where we might be the only paid knowledge in the hospital. And I find that really tough on shift work to then kind of de-stress from that to focus and use my time effectively.
So what I found was I needed to pick my battles. So if I was finishing, first of all, NICU nights, no, I just wasn't going to study.
Yeah.
Wasn't going to happen. Or if I studied, it would be while I was at work if there was a brief break. Yeah. I knew when I got home I wasn't going to study because they're 13-hour night shifts, you're exhausted, you just want to collapse into bed. NICU day shifts, I might be able to get a little bit of study in, but again, you're not going to get much in. So you need to work out where can you fit study in. When you have a shorter day, when you have a day off, you just need to cram it in there as much as you can. But do still plan breaks in there. But yeah, you need to pick your battles and say, after this kind of shift, I'm not going to take anything in. Or the other thing is, if you're using LearnMed, you can get it on your phone and then you can just do 5 or 10 questions.
Passive study.
Yeah,
is what I call it.
Exactly. Something that's not going to be too heavy, but you're still doing something which helps with that guilt. So you might then be able to wind down after you've done it and sleep better. But yeah, just do something a bit simple, or, if you're planning on using some note cards, just copy out a note card or something that's simple, is a little bit of study, but is not really using a lot of brain power. And I've got no easy answers other than that, unfortunately. Anything else on the written?
Kate may touch on this, but just in terms of my approach has been just focusing on the written because it's such a huge hurdle in itself. But at what point, would you put aside time for the clinical exam study?
When the results came back.
Or you made it? Okay.
So most of us had planned,
Obviously.
So most of us had planned that once we sat the written, we would then start preparing, even while waiting for results. We'd have a week off and then start preparing, but you all know how that happened. So we didn't really get time to do that, but that had been most people's plan. They were going to have a week off where they weren't going to do any study, they were just going to enjoy themselves, and then they were going to hit the clinical stuff, but that didn't quite work out like that. But yeah, 99% of people, I would say, don't touch it until they've done the written. So you just don't have time.
Can I suggest, because I passed my written this year, but didn't book for the clinical exam. So for your question, I think I've got a family, I've got a kid, I don't have any family support, and it's cooking, cleaning, making sure you've got meals. 7 weeks was a nightmare, and mentally you have to be sure that you're feeling ready for the exam. If you feel like this is not going to be enough for me, don't stress yourself through it. It's not worth it. Just do it the following year. So factor in and get as much support as you can from friends and families, and order food in, get a cleaner, just make it easy for you, but it's hard. So if you anticipate that it's going to be very difficult because of your circumstances at home, I'd suggest to start even early. Even if you can just do 2 or 3 long cases just before next year, just 1 or 2, you know, when you're in the clinic and say, oh, this is a good long case, and, you know, present it to someone, I think it'd be useful if you can. Yeah.
That's a really good point. If you're not feeling ready, there is nothing wrong with saying, I'm not going to do this exam.
And often you have that constant guilt, like, oh my God, I'll just force myself, I'll just do this exam because I don't want to let my family go through this again. But if you're not ready, don't go through it.
Fraction of time, otherwise I think.
So this is adult knowledge for free.
Are you going to talk about power poses? I saw that power pose picture.
I advocate the power pose for sure. But this is me. Hi guys, I'm Kate. Again, I know some of you as well, but others I don't. So hello, thanks very much. And I'm going to talk about the clinical exam, aka the most stressful day of your life, with a little asterisk, which we'll get to later. So I do want to have a disclaimer because I know everyone is really different, and for me, this is just advice from me. I'm one person. I will have a different learning style than you all. I deal with stress differently than you all. I will live somewhere slightly different from the hospital in terms of like logistics. And this exam is like one big logistical, we are now, what was it? It's a 1,500 meter sprint. It's not 100 meters where it's bam, done, it's over, and then you can have a break. You actually have to just keep running at a really hard pace for those, and you guys have 8 weeks. So it's slightly shorter, but still the intensity is going to be there. And so you're just going to have to, again, find your own approach. This is just my approach. I did the exams last year. I did my written in Sydney, and my clinical exam was in Monash in Victoria. English is my first language. And whilst I think it's completely unfair, this is an oral exam. And if you speak the language, know the innuendos, know the subtleties that you get from people that also speak English as their first language, which they generally tend to have. All of my patients have spoken English as their first language exam. You're really at an enormous advantage to start off with. So again, different issues for different people. I have no children and no dependents, and I had a very neglected husband. We definitely pulled up the slack. We didn't outsource anything, which perhaps was a failing, but he really did pick up a lot of the slack. So they're my disclaimers, but you're all going to have your own things that matter to you and shape your own exam experience. And that's my husband on our honeymoon. So the objective is you just have to turn up. You have to do all the cases. There's 2 longs, there's 4 shorts. The longs are worth triple the amount of the shorts, at least they were when I did it, and I don't think that scoring system has changed too drastically. And you just have to show the examiners that you are ready to be in advanced training. You don't have to be a consultant. You don't have to be an expert in this particular rare, weird, or like who knows what the diagnosis is. You just have to show them that you're competent and you can be in advanced training. Anything else is extra. And you're going to be really, really, really nervous. It's not like the written exam where you can just sit there, you're in your own space, everyone else is doing the same thing. It is just you with a patient and the examiners, and you're going to feel really, really nervous. People will tell you all sorts of ways to manage the nerves. You can power pose beforehand. I advocate for that. The girl next to me, who is also the gastroenterology trainee at Brisbane this year. We just happened to do the exam together. Very strange. She did a tap dance outside her room. I know some of my study group members salsaed outside because that's what gave them strength and power. Find whatever it is for you. No one cares what you're doing outside the room. You just walk in there and then you own it. Yeah?
I got my bulldog to give me pep talks.
Okay. Yeah, and whatever works for you. Just speak your own language of confidence. You just, you will, and it will work. You just have to. So you are going to be really nervous. So just make peace with this and just practice being really nervous, but performing while you're really nervous, if that makes sense. There's no way around not having nerves on the day because you're all excellent doctors. You all care about this, and that's why you have nerves. So the next thing to know is you cannot control everything. You just can't. But what you can control, and this was something that one of the people at the clinical exam prep course, which I'll talk about a bit later, let us know. There are people that have an internal locus of control and an external locus of control. There are always going to be things that you can control and can't control,
but own the things that you can. So you can control how organised you are. You can control sitting down doing study, I'm just going to do this. You can control emailing bosses saying, I'd love to present some more long cases to you. Can I schedule in a time? You can control that. You can't control, oh, the place that didn't show up, dang, oh well, just don't worry about it too much. You just keep going. So take ownership of the things that you can control and don't worry about ones that you can't, because that's always going to happen. On the day, things might go wrong that you can't control, but if you just put in all the preparation and know that you've done your very best, then that's all you can do. And like Liesl said, there are so many paediatricians and other doctors that I respect who have not got through these exams the first time, and it is no less, not a reflection of them being any less of a person or a doctor. It's just sometimes there are things outside their control, and sometimes they're not ready or whatever it is, but it's not a reflection on you as a person. It's not a reflection on you as a doctor. So know that. So this is the objective, the clinical exam mountain. Also a picture from my New Zealand study course. One of my study group members and I decided that we didn't want to study after we went and climbed a mountain.
Oh yeah, we did no study after the lectures.
Good metaphor, because this is actually Mount Doom. But with proper planning, will prevent poor performance, or the 5 Ps. So this is what this is, because it's a sprint. It's 8 weeks. You just have to get yourself so organised, because you can't afford to not hit the ground running. You just have to go. So this is what you need to do. Your prep and the exam day. You have to get organised. You just have to start when you get those exam results, because we probably had the luxury of maybe faffing around for 2-3 weeks where we were like, oh, just trying to find out what we're going to do. But I think with the 8-week run-in, that's going to be a bit harder. So I agree, I probably wasn't emotionally able to look at anything after the written exam. But if you can even just start to look at the bosses that you want to present long cases to, start lining up a few ATs that you want to present some long cases to, you just have to crack your first long case, because then once you've done that, you just keep going. So just get started. The other things that you need to use in your preparation would be getting your exam bag, hospital teaching, study courses and study group, and I'll go through some of those as well as the exam day itself. And then whilst our allocations have already gone out, we've had to preference them already, if you can, for people doing e-draft, to try and preference on-site ones for that first 6 months of the year, because it will just help. It means that logistical disasters that is getting to cases and things for people off-site, you just don't have to worry about that as much. So if you can, great. If not, lots of people pass from our site that weren't on-site, if that makes sense. It's possible. It just means you just have to factor something else in. So study group, again, you just got rid of them. You just did the written, but no, you need them. So this is mine. This is Erin and Steve. Some of you will know them. Erin is the organised ship captain master. She just whips us all into line. Steve's it's okay, don't stress, we'll be fine. And I don't know what I provide, but they had me, so that's good.
This is exactly like my study group, except Rachel is Erin, Ryan is Steve.
So I guess the message here is that's still Mount Doom in the background, but you've got your friends in it, yeah? And they're your support people. And really, it's a bit of a carry each other through the 1,500 metre sprint, because you really need those. Well, I really needed those people. Some people probably don't need them as much, but these two were definite rocks in this whole process. And just expect that you're going to spend a lot of time at work. And when you make peace with that, it's okay, yeah? So in terms of the long preparation then, again, this is very brief and condensed. Very happy to have a longer chat with people afterwards, and I'm sure Louise has some thoughts as well. What you want to do right at the start is just try and get an opening statement ready, because once you stick to it, it lets you paint a picture of the case, and then you're just off. So you just want to get into the long, you can present, and if you do the same thing each time, it's consistent. It means you're not worried about it on the day. You can just start, and then your brain will start thinking of issues, if that makes sense. So this was my template, which I had at the front of my study folder, so I didn't forget what I was meant to be doing. And I just wrote it out, 10 times, one day, one afternoon, until it was in my head, and then it just kept going. And you will refine it. It doesn't need to be the same the whole time. Different people will have different things, but it needs to have something. So you just have to say, I met this patient and their carer, use their name, The examiners really like that. Don't call them mum, don't call them dad, call them their name. Patient is a how many old, boy, girl with a history of, their main diagnosis complicated by, or in the context of something, or something else went really bad. It will be the same each time. It's just a decision tree because the long cases essentially, that's the same thing most times. And you want something to do on their function and communication because, again, you're just painting the picture of the patient for the examiners. Are they independent and suddenly have like this catastrophic event? Or have they always been, as my consultant at the moment calls them, a clunkster? Like, you just have to paint a picture because that's what this is about. And then the patient, then at the end, you just put them in the context of their family because the long case is the patient in the context of their family, in the context of their community. And that's really the essence of the long case. That's what you want to be able to do because you're problem solving for that child in their family, in their community. Yeah. And the summary just has something nice and succinct. In terms of practical ways of the longs, the way you sort of then take your history and write it out, I had manila folders. Some of you might be familiar with that process. You probably see the exam candidates walking around them. Other people use those little computer cards that people have. I'm very, very clumsy, so the computer cards are never going to work for me because I would have dropped them on the way to somewhere. So I used a big manila folder. Everything was there. I couldn't lose something. And one of the best tips that someone told me when I was presenting the long cases is, as you know, you take your history, you get all the issues, you then examine them, you get their meds, you get the family history, all of that. And then when you're presenting, you sort of go through the issues. But you've only got, in the whole long case, maybe even 8 minutes of the 25-minute extravaganza. You really want to almost go with history, examination and everything out, and then you want to be talking about issues because that's where all your points come from. So in terms of making history bit succinct, let's just say they have seizures. You want to give the fact, seizures, make an analysis of that, well-controlled, not well-controlled, started this is a semiology, and what's the impact on the family? No impact, they're well-controlled, or it's actually really devastating. He's had lots of aspirations. This leads me on to my next point. And that way you can just really succinctly manage it, if that makes sense. So if you can think about fact, analysis, and the impact of all the long case issues, it can make your presentation of it sound more, thoughtful, and a little bit quicker. And then another really great tip that one of Emma McCann, who's one of our sort of quite high up executive doctory people at our hospital, let me know is that if you can tell the examiners how the child sleeps and how they eat, you're pretty much home free because they're the two things that create the biggest burden of care for some of our long case patients and their families. So do they have CPAP? Do they not? Where do they sleep is another really good question because sometimes no one's actually asked and they sleep in mum and dad's bed. Maybe they do have a bedroom, but because they're not sleeping in their own bed, mum and dad don't sleep, and that just creates mum's mental health problems. And, they're really simple questions, but it's very easy not to ask them. So that was a really great tip.
Add something to that? One of my long cases, I know I got extra marks because I got out of them that they were co-sleeping and the examiners didn't know.
Yeah.
So it's something that they may not have had time or think to ask, but if you can tell them that, that'll get you a little
simple.
Big tick.
And then the other really amazing tip for long cases, represent. Do not be afraid to represent old ones because you can always do it better. And sometimes when there is a bit of case saturation in the hospital, when there's lots of trainees that are doing it, even if you don't have a new long case, try and represent an old one. This is my manila folder. I can a couple of minutes. Okay, no worries.
Sorry.
So that's when you sort of open it up, and I start at the top, demographics. Then that next little bit is if I need to write or scribble things. I make sure I get all the teams, all the meds, what have I written there, allergies, immunisations, and family history. And I'll draw a family tree from the start so I know what the social context of the family is. And on that one, you see I wrote fact, analysis, impact because I really wanted to remember that that's what I'm trying to take in my history as well. And then birth history, issues, it's sort of like diagnoses really, or whether it's chest health or bone health or that sort of thing. Inactive stuff, just jot it down quickly. Surgical things that have gone on, development, I wrote out like hearing, vision, receptive, expressive, fine motor, gross motor, and social, so that I also remembered to present that if I needed to. Function, systems review, growth and nutrition, and then behaviours, any behaviours that are causing an issue, just to remind myself to ask. Because sometimes they won't say, oh, they grind their teeth, and that means that they're in pain, and then they don't sleep. Like, just think about those things to ask. And at the start of every long case, because I'm a bit of a forgetful person, I just say, excuse me, I'm just going to take 1 minute to write down my performance so I don't forget anything, and then we can chat. So that's just what worked for me. Some people can do it as they go. You just figure out what works for you. And that's the back. Family history, would have already done that. Then the social stuff, so what's going on at home, smoking, school, transport, jobs, finances, NDIS. Pretty sure I had like an acronym to remember all of that. Then future, prognosis, end of life. Yeah, sometimes that's important in certain cases. Not always, but remember not to forget it if it is something that will be significant for that patient. And then other social things up there. You can have a look at it later. I think you can all have the slides.
And for every AT we'll be able to draw up their pro forma if you want to look at different people. Just ask somebody. And
another really amazing question that I think Ken Peacock, one of our paediatricians, said, is that he always asks the carer there on the days that if you could change 3 things to make your and your child's life better, what would they be? Because that lets you know what their treatment goals are. And if they're really different from what you think they are, you've got another issue. Does that make sense? Yeah. The other thing is that the money and the longs, you have to get all the history to get to the management, but the money is your issues list. So what are the things you're going to do to help this family? So what we did, this is where our study group came in. So we had an approach to all the management issues likely to come up. So we identified an issue. This is not exhaustive by any means. There are so many, but they will come up again and again and again. So you just need, in your mind, dysphagia. This is my drop-down menu. I do this, this, this. These are the things that I might do in order to investigate it. These are the things I might do to management. Ordinarily, this is what I do in my local area, but in this area, I'm not sure the local services for this family because I'm not in New South Wales. I'm up in Darwin. So you can just give them your context because it lets you know that you know what to do and you find what to do. Maybe it's not quite right for this area, but you just have that drop-down menu.
This, by the way, is an easy thing to practice when you can't get patients or you've just got a few minutes. We had sitting in our common room a long case and a short case lucky dip. And so you would just pull out a long case and you would say to the person you were doing it with, okay, talk to me about seizure management. And you didn't have to have a patient there, didn't have to have any context, you could just go through the long case issues.
Do whatever works for you, but you will, if you do this, it just makes you sound slick. You've already got the management plan that you're not thinking about on the day. Tips for shorts. Always start it the same way because you're going to be really nervous and that way you've got the way you're going to enter the room. So we had I Hug VIDEP, which is introduce yourself, wash your hands. Do they look well or unwell? I'd like to see the growth charts, please. Do they have any vitals? No. Okay, I'll measure them myself. And then iatrogenic things, maybe there is like a CF, like little inhaler thing, or maybe they're connected to a drip. Make sure you mention it. Appropriate exposure for the examination that you've been asked to do it at the start, because otherwise you don't want to find out, oh no, they've got like a big scar on their back. I was doing a gastro exam, or I don't know, that probably won't happen. But just expose them well at the start. And then always remember to ask, does the child have any pain at the start? Because you don't want to cause the child pain at all. That's, a big no-no. And you can do lots of prep without even seeing a patient. And yeah, don't underestimate the power of nerves on the actual exam day. Practice on each other, practice on stuffed toys, just get your exam slick. These are things that I used. Wayne, he's great. He knows Steve Irwin, and there's like a dedication to him at the start. Really recommend that textbook. Clinical Paediatrics for a different break and just looking at things in a different way I thought was great. And the RACP, consultants with RACP marking experience is absolutely invaluable because they know what they're looking for. It's really important to get their feedback if you can. And I know at both our sites there's lots of paediatricians with that experience. Advanced trainees are good to listen to cases, patients, each other. These are the study courses. There's one. But I thought it was really great. Again, You have to decide what is your best time to gain management because you're going to have a limited period of time. But I thought it was really good. And I thought it was both a good break, good time to like learn about different ways of doing different exams and things. And then other private courses as well. I know the exams and oral examination skills if you're someone that finds talking a bit more difficult, or again, just there's other things that you can find as well. The exam bag doesn't have to be new. Know your bag. Add a sticker to say which way was up, because I know I would have opened it the wrong way. Laminate your growth chart so you can use them again and again. Get it early. So even you're going to need it at some point because you're going to be sitting the clinical exam. So even if that week between the written and the clinical exam, you're getting your exam bag ready, that's okay. It's just money in the bank. You'll need it the year after, no matter if you pass or fail, you know. It's something that you will need. And for things that are a bit harder to find, there's lots of medical websites online. It was really easy to find everything. Just get onto it early so you can use it. This was my exam bag. There's a neuro kit, there's a developmental kit, growth charts, toys. This is the list of things that were in it, but it's not exhaustive. You can all have the slides. I'll pause. All right, I'm finished. But yeah, it's not exhaustive. And then the exam day. So again, I will try and be brief. I know we're running short on time. It's going to be slightly different depending on where you are. So just talk to someone that went to where you were the day before. But essentially, the consultants that mark always say they can't tell if they're in an exam in Darwin versus Hobart. You know, it's the same exam. The patients across the board are standard. Get your outfit and shoes early and practice in it. Make sure it's comfortable, modest, and professional. And if you're going to wear high heels on the day, wear them at work when you're practicing your cases so you know if they're going to work or not. And take a spare pair of stockings, or even two, if you're going to wear stockings on the day. Or, I don't know, boys, if you need a spare tie in case it gets caught in something, like just take two of the things that you need, because then, again, you can control that and it minimizes your stress. Decide if you want a friend or support person early so that they can try and get the time off work as well. I took my husband, which was just amazing, because I really didn't want to go back after lunch. I thought I had failed. But you have no internal calibration on the day because you're actually just that nervous. And so you have to go back after lunch. You get 3 cases in the morning, 3 cases in the afternoon. Don't you dare leave after the first 3. You will want to, 100% guarantee, 100%, but you just go back. And you'll probably utter more expletives than you ever have in your life at lunch, just thinking about all the things that you've done wrong. But don't worry, just go back, because you just don't know how you're going. You just really have no internal calibration. It's just, you're just that nervous. And plan something nice after the exam. You will need the distraction because you just keep thinking. There's lots of other logistical things on the day, which I'm sure you'll find out closer to the day, but they're my big main take-home points for the exam day itself. So just keep going. So for the most stressful day in your life, it actually isn't going to be the most stressful day in your life. It's just an exam. I know that people keep telling you this, but it really, really is. Like, you will have partners, parents, siblings, friends. They are all so much more important than this exam. Yes, it's a barrier, but really, in terms of perspective, you're in such a privileged position to be able to even sit it. It's such a privilege because you can do it. You are smart enough, you are capable enough, and you're not a long case. You just think about all of the rest of the world. I think just having that perspective definitely helped keep me going, even though it was really hard and it is stressful. Just if you can get perspective, I think it helps keep you going. I think we'll harp on this about eating, sleeping, exercise and breaks, but it's so important. You will feel pressured because it's only 8 weeks, but that still means you need to just schedule it in. So that's where the organisation comes down to it again. You just have to be really organised. And yes, you just must sleep. And that's me in the PNICU. The registrar that I was on with took my picture while I was asleep. And pass or fail, life continues as the final message. So in that year, we decided to buy an apartment. I wouldn't recommend that. Between the written and the clinical, still spend time with my family. And these are they're the most important things. But you will all get there. And it doesn't matter how many goes. because, you know, you're all fabulous doctors and even more importantly, you know, good humans. That's the most important thing.
Okay, we've been asked to take any questions in the room next door, and there's lots of people on the video, and they're all PEDS people and wanted to ask us questions.
Okay.
So you would have all got a little handout, and it's really nothing overly special. It's just, you know, I think most of what I've heard tonight from everybody has shown that really getting through your exam is largely common sense. And I know that sounds patronising and condescending, but I'm sure you've heard everybody talk about the fact that this is just an exam. You have a written exam and a clinical exam. You've done a lot of other exams in the lead up to these, and obviously you've made it through all of those to get to this point. You're going to do a written exam. Following that, you will either do a clinical exam in the same year or the next year. The key to sitting either of these exams is to talk to your supervisors, talk to your DPs, talk to the directors of training, talk to your peers and talk to APs at the hospital and at your work. Talk to people who are mentors and who you can trust and get their judgment on whether you are ready to sit the exam. The majority of people who I do talk to who have been unsuccessful in their exam have spoken to their DP and their supervisor and been advised that they weren't quite ready. So just keep that in mind. I know one of you earlier was saying next door that you made a decision not to sit the clinical exam because you just felt that the stress was going to be too high and you weren't ready. And that's a really smart move. Be kind to yourselves throughout all of this. The information that's in here has been prepared by our training support unit, working in conjunction with my team to look after the assessment. And really one of the key things is to make sure you focus on your wellbeing, make sure that you use your calendars, use organisers, things like that very effectively to help you. One of the worst things that happens is people want to do the written exam and they forget to actually apply. And unfortunately, we can't take late applications because we close the applications, and all these dates from the website, we close the applications at midday on the 26th of November this year. We have to actually send everything out to get all your names printed onto exam papers and get all of that sorted and book your seats on that day. So technically we should close it on the Friday, but we choose to close it on the Monday. So we can't take late applications. Always really hard when someone rings up at 4:45 on that last day and they go, have I just made it? We just missed it. And we just can't do anything. So use organisers and things like that. For those who want to sit the written exam next year, we are sending out reminders about applications being open, applications closing, and probably one that's something along the lines of applications are really, really closing now, so remember to do this. But put things into your calendar. So coming from tonight, that'll go in together with sleep, eat, meditate, all of those other pieces. When you go and do your written exam next year, it is a paper-based exam. So you will get the score sheets. Who was showing? Was it you who was showing us the score sheets you printed out? Yeah. You will get those. Remember to take a pen with you. And to give you some reassurance, when we scan the sheets, we do sometimes get calls from people who haven't passed the exam who say, I think I might have made a mistake when I crossed something out. I wrote my correct answer next to it and I mightn't have rubbed it out or something mightn't have shown. We have a team of people who actually go through and look for everything like that, and they go through every single possible permutation. If something doesn't scan properly, they look for marks that indicate what you may have wanted as your answer. They look for things that are written, all of those sorts of things. If you forget to write your name or your number on your score sheet, again, we pick that up. Hopefully not a whole lot of people have forgotten to write names and numbers on, but also those things are collected in a certain order. So we would generally be able to put them together and know who did what, but just remember to do those sorts of basic things when you're at your exam. If you go to your written exam and you have any problems or concerns on the day, make sure you let the invigilator know and make sure that they do make an incident report. Often we get told that something happened on exam day, but unless people have made it clear that it was a problem and a complaint, so if you just make an offhand comment to an invigilator about, oh, I don't like my seat, they'll go, oh, yeah, all right, and they'll walk away. What you might mean is, I don't like my seat because there's a gust of cold air blowing on my head, or I don't like my seat because I can't actually see anything sitting here. If it's that sort of problem, make sure you let them know. They'll fill in an incident report, they'll make you comfortable in a different seat where you can see or you're not freezing, and you'll be able to progress with your exam. It's much better to make a little bit of a fuss than to wish that you'd made a little bit of a fuss over something. You want to be comfortable, you've got to recall a lot of information. Trying to do an express version here. So, in terms of the actual exam questions, the questions are not designed to trick you. The fact that you're sitting here tonight, that you've all come from work today, or if you've had a day off, you've made the effort to come in here, means that you're at the right level to be actually going in and knowing what the questions are asking you. So, as was said earlier, this is kind of a link through to the clinical exam. So this is taking you from your work, testing your knowledge and your ability to apply concepts and information, and that will then progress you into the clinical exam. It's not designed to be a punishment, it's designed to make sure that you're at the level that you need to be to progress. So if you're not successful, it's just an exam. It's not the end of the world. You just do it again and you'd be grateful that you actually got the opportunity to stop and take that breathing space. I was talking to the now just stepped down chair of our clinical exam committee this year, and I was talking to him because I was very concerned about a trainee who had failed their clinical exam, and I wasn't quite sure what I could do to help the trainee. They were really quite certain that this was the end. The fact that they weren't successful in this exam was going to define their entire life. And he said to me, I failed the clinical exam the first time I did it. He said, I went in thinking I knew what I was doing and I thought I was fine. He goes, but I failed really badly, passed it the next year. He said, because it was just the kick I needed to make me realise the things I needed to focus on and the fact that it was just an exam. He said he credits failing that exam with making him a better physician. He said, had I passed in that first attempt, I would not be who I am today. That helped me to learn humility, helped me to learn more of what I needed to know, and it made me go and seek the experience and the guidance that I needed to be able to actually get through the exam the next year and to go and have a very, very good career. And so failing an exam is not the end. You may well still come back as the chair of a clinical exam committee if you feel like holding down 2 full-time jobs and doing some counselling along the way. So please focus on the fact it is just an exam. The college has a lot of resources available, both to help you prepare for your exams. We do have the college learning series, and I'm conscious there's not that much in PEDS. It is in development. Not that much.
There's none.
We're working on it. But there are other resources and links that you can go to, and I think you've got a really strong sort of group in PEDS where you do network, you do talk, you do support one another, so just hang in there for the learning series. Those who are doing the written exam next year, the full sets of questions from the written exam this year are still available on the website, and they don't have answers to them, but that's so that you can go and find those answers. A lot of people actually said they help them, they sort of use those for their study in that couple of weeks after the episode. Help them to structure what they were looking up and where they were going to. So do go and use those. Have a look at the handout, there's some other resources listed on there. And also go and talk to to supervisors and your DPs about where there's other access to resources. If you are feeling stressed for your exams, the college has Converge International, which provides services and counselling services, etc., and they can be made available face-to-face if you wanted. They can also, we can have counsellors sent out to the hospital, or you can go somewhere and do that, or do it over the phone. So don't let the stress or the anxiety get to you. And if you are unsuccessful in the written exam or in the clinical, please make use of those services. Look after yourself, because there'll always be another exam. There won't be another you if anything happens. So that's a really important piece. I'm trying to really hurry you, but as you said, there's a short period between the written exam and paediatrics clinical. So you do need to knuckle in and really start that study. But keep thinking about the fact that the clinical exam is just a formal way of testing what you do on the job. So don't make it seem like the mountain of doom. It is actually testing on what you do on the job. So if you go in and do the things that you've been told to do while at work, that's what's going to help you out there. For your clinical exam, you will need to travel. I'm sure you're all aware of that. You can't do it at a site you've worked at, unless there's special circumstances. We do try to not have you examined by anybody you have ever worked with. If on the day of a clinical exam anything occurs that seems untoward, or if there's anyone there that doesn't make you feel comfortable, please make sure you tell the chief examiner or alert somebody. Again, with all exams, if we hear about something afterwards and nobody's documented anything and nothing's been raised, it's really hard to do anything. And for me to be able to protect all of you, I need you to be making those comments to people. So if there is anything that doesn't feel right, please raise it at the time. The clinical exams, you get your allocation, and then you'll get that at least 6 weeks out from when you need to go to the exam, so that you'll be able to arrange your travel. And then you'll obviously hopefully be going with friends so you can go and stay somewhere nice. Some did in New Zealand this year. They had a lovely time. Then the results for your clinical exam will come out. You'll get an email saying you passed or failed. But 4 weeks after that, you actually get copies of feedback that was written by the examiners on the day, so that if you're not successful, that can actually help you prepare for next year. It doesn't have the examiners' names and it doesn't have the patients' names for privacy reasons, but we do actually make sure that you get copies of that. If you're not successful in the clinical exam, that will be sent to a member of the National Examining Panel who will sit down and go through it with you. And the reason we do that is not so that people can have to go and face up to someone. It's so that people who weren't successful actually get the context around the comments and the feedback that's been provided. So it's not a punitive thing. It's done purely to support people, because we all know that if we're not successful at something, we start reading messages that aren't there and things. I'm just going through, if I've missed anything, absolutely critical. We've been through study groups, been through all of those sorts of things earlier. Everyone's explained how they do or don't do their study groups. So I'd probably rather now stop prattling on and just see if there's any questions or any concerns. I mightn't be able to answer everything tonight, but might be able to make more information available on the website as well for people.
It's a very specific question. Just regarding the written for the multiple choice, is that going to be pencil or pen?
It's pen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I heard various things about it. It's very confusing. So if you mark the wrong thing, there's like a specific sequence of events that you're meant to do, or steps of how to write the correct answer.
Yeah. You colour in the thing. If you realise that you coloured in B and you wanted to colour in A, cross out B. Just put an X through it and colour in A. If you don't think that we're going to understand that, write A next to it.
Okay.
And whilst my team won't enjoy their day picking through the anomalies, they will find that you meant A.
So theoretically, let's say you just scroll through all the answers. If you just cross everything out and leave something written, they'll just interpret
we'll pick that up.
Okay.
As long as it's clearly crossed out. So some people will cross, some people scribble. Some people obviously get really angry with the wrong answer. They really work on crossing it out, but we pick that up too. We look at everything, and then if we can't determine it, we'll actually have 3, 4, 5 or 6 people have a look. Yeah.
And then say if you change your mind again and you want the original answer, can you just do an arrow pointing that you want the one that was crossed
An
out?
arrow is probably a bit much for us. We live on caffeine and chocolate at that time. Probably if you just cross out the new answer and just write beside it what one you wanted. So just, yeah, rely on the crossing out and the writing if it comes down to it.
Why not just use pencil?
Yeah, really trying to rub out properly pencil in one of those little circles.
Yeah, mine really.
Yeah, it doesn't work that great. So what happens is the machine reader picks it up. And so then if you've tried everything, you've coloured in A, B, C and D. And yeah, maybe this is why we've gone to 4 options, because it used to be A. You've coloured them all in, it reads them all and it tells us there's a problem. We've got to go back and figure out which one's coloured in the darkest. So yeah, we moved on to pen, and it used to be the machine readers could only read pencil. That was the reason there. They've advanced.
I think if there are some questions where you're not sure about, and if we're allowed to bring in pencil, I think what I did was use the pencil to mark and circle or star the questions that I wasn't sure about rather than leaving it blank. Because if you leave something blank, there's a high chance you forgot you left it blank, and then the next question you put the thing in the wrong column, and then you can go back and rub out all the pencil.
Yeah. Do it really light.
Yeah, and just make sure that you rub out all the pencil at the end. That's one other way of managing it.
Anything else?
Is there a guarantee that for everyone who passes the written exam, there will be questions for the exam?
There is, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can I ask why you did go to 4 questions over 5?
Yeah. There's a few reasons. So I don't know if you've ever tried to write a multiple choice question, or if you've ever looked at some that do have 5 options. The most common thing internationally is to use 4, sometimes 3. When you're writing 5 option questions, oftentimes people write the correct answer, they make a correct answer. They can come up with 3 plausible distractors, so things that would be common errors that people would make. Coming up with a 4th one often becomes a little bit too creative. And so when you do analysis, generally around 95.4 approximately % of items that have 5 options have one option that, regardless of the number of times that item is used, it's never been selected. And that's usually because it is so clearly incorrect that there's no point having it there. So all you're doing is making people spend their time reading it in an exam, and every minute counts. And you're also putting something in there that if the question has any sort of ambiguity in it, it risks actually tricking the people who are doing well on the exam into putting an incorrect answer just through the fact that it becomes confusing to read. And so then you're actually undermining why you're even doing an exam. So we made a decision when we did our analysis. We did come up with the magic 95.4%. And we said, well, we're not going to actually use 5 options anymore while we're using this exact testing format. So where we're having this particular number of multiple choice and that particular test design. Anything else?
There's still extended match questions as well.
There are, yeah. And I can't remember the exact number. I think it's 8 and 3 or 6 and 3. All right, thank you. And you've got your handout?
Yes.
So good luck. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and thanks very much for our speakers. I think we've been doing questions on the way through, yeah? So does anyone want to have any more questions?
Is there any questions from the video conference people? Do they have the ability to ask questions?
Any questions from the video conference people? Maybe I'll ask when the paediatric call will be available to the people who find that couldn't listen.
So within 1 week, you can send the presentations, the slides, as well as the recording.
Just for those who are on the video conference, sorry, I don't think we knew that we weren't video conferencing as well. So if they have questions, I'm certainly happy for you to pass on my details. If you have questions for me.
So much.